Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Overfilled the podcast. I'm Jamie Kuzner, and I'm joined by my two optometry besties, Brooke Messer and Jason Jedlicka. So we definitely have a treat in store for you today for our episode. But before we get jumping into our topic, we always start out by talking about what overfilled us this week. So, Brooke, what is it that overfilled you this week?
I'm going to keep it short and sweet. We had kids' spring programs this week, and so it's always good to see them in there. They call it their Sunday best outfits at school, where they don't have, food stained and grass stained clothing. And then they, of course, they're still in that like sing to the max stage where there is no inhibition standing on those risers and stuff. So it's just always good to see the kids do that and be so proud of their work.
Oh,
Love that.
Yeah.
That is so fun. I'll go next. My overfilled, I feel like I always have so many clinical ones, but I don't know. I just work all the time. So lately I was telling Jason before we started, I've had a lot of patients find me that I haven't seen in a while because they're from my last office. But yesterday, I had the pleasure of having a 22-year-old patient with keratoconus find me after many years. I actually had diagnosed her when she was in 8th grade with keratoconus. And that was back when cross-linking was still like kind of in the process of getting FDA approved in the United States. And I convinced like her and her parents and everybody, like, your daughter needs to get cross-linked. I know you've never heard of this. It's just getting FDA approved. You just really need to trust me on it. And she got cross-linked in 8th grade. And she came to me and she just graduated from college. And she found me on a whim because she hadn't seen me in a while. And she Googled me and she came in and she can still wear just daily soft lenses.
Nice.
The 2020 and like 2025, like in the worst eye. And it just made me so happy that we intervened so early and so young with cross-linking that, she doesn't even need a scleral. So even though like we love sclerals and we love to be overfilled by sclerals, what makes me even happier is that she doesn't need a scleral.
Yeah.
And it literally, this condition does not affect her life in the slightest. So that was just really kind of cool to see her. One, it was great to see her all grown up because I remember her as a child. And two, just to know that, cross-linking helped to keep her live a normal life, a non-scleral life, So that made me really happy to see her. So that's my overfilled for the week.
Very nice. Well, my overfilled is special, and I get to introduce a guest that we have on our show. For those of you who follow our episodes, every now and then we have a special guest, and we have a very special guest here with us today. So many of you already know her from her work in scleral lenses and dry eye, but we are very pleased to have Rebecca Petris here with us today. Rebecca, again, is founder of Big Fat Scleral Lens, Dry Foundation, the Dry Zone, so many more things that she does to advocate for patients in particular, but just helping the entire arena of scleral lenses between doctor-patient relationships and getting people the care they need and the information they need that she does for us behind the scenes and in front of the scenes and everywhere. So it's just really a pleasure to have you here today, Rebecca, to talk about what you do and to help not only practitioners who may be watching this, but maybe some patients to find out how they can improve their situation and circumstances with regards to dryness and scleral lenses. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be with you today.
We're so excited you're here too. We've been trying to match up calendars for a little while, so this is super exciting. And this podcast today is really geared toward, we certainly want practitioners to listen and take in all that Rebecca has to share with us so that we can enhance our relationship with our patients, but it's also for patients too. So we hope that it's an opportunity to provide patients with information on how they can best communicate with their provider. And like you said, just really strengthen that bond and help them find the person that's going to best serve them for the long haul on their eye care.
So Rebecca, why don't let's start out let's talk about how do you kind of see yourself in our space with scleral lenses and dryness? Like, can you tell the audience a little bit more about, what you do, what inspires you And what is kind of your biggest passion right now in the scleral lens space?
Right. So to kind of put this in context, I guess, at the Dry Eye Foundation, we've got all these kind of different things that we dabble in. I guess I'd say we've got the patient community services side, where we do one-on-one phone support and Zoom groups and our Facebook groups. So MBFSL is one of those. And some in-person events and education events. And we've been getting into advocacy more now too. We're doing our second Hill Day this year, the Dry Eye in DC. So we've got a lot of just, working with the community on education and advocacy and community support. And then we've also just got these initiatives that we engage in from time to time. So it's like picking a problem out there. What are patients in our not just dry eye, but our corneal disease communities really struggling with most, and what's something we can do about it? So, for example, eye drop safety has been a really big one for us for several years now. We've, tracking all of the different recalls and some manufacturer issues. We have our eyedropsafety.org database where people can look things up and know what's going on. There's some other regulatory issues on the dry eye side that we're working on. And so my Big Fat Scleral Lens is kind of part of it. It's its own initiative in that area. Where are the pain points for patients and the challenges? And for me personally, that all came to a head probably about 10 years ago. You remember the Unisol 4 discontinuation?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And that's when we got this huge influx of more people with scleral lenses, and I became more and more aware of these long lists of questions that people have, and how can we help with that somehow? So that's when the Facebook MBFSL, My Big Fat Scleral Lens group, was born back in there. I feel like I might need to go a little bit further back. Like, how did I get involved?
Free. Yeah, feel free. Yeah. I mean, you obviously, this is personal to you in a lot of ways. So give us a little bit of your backstory too, if you don't mind.
Sure. So my story starts back in 2001 when I had an unfortunate outcome from LASIK. And the biggest impact was, and still is, really vision. So I lost several lines of acuity. And I also got dry eye and neuropathic corneal pain. Back in the days when we didn't even really have language for some of these things, right? Mm-hmm. And like many other people, I tried the various things out there, and on the vision side, I tried actually more surgery, and then RGPs, and then piggybacking, and nothing was really working for me. My first meaningful solution was in 2004. I got reverse geometry macro lenses. Way back in the day, right? And then in 2006, I got sclerals for the first time, and that became my sustainable solution for kind of across the board, everything. It was what got me seeing again, to be able to drive again, and working more comfortably. It kept my eyes more comfortable during the day. So that I've been super grateful for them. And that's also what kind of pulled me into the community and the community's needs. And, back to say 2001 to 2005, I was more of a sort of a spectator watching all of these challenges people were struggling with, both on the post-refractive and the dry eye side. And the thing that really came home to me and made me end up going into this field as a full-time thing and switching from a completely unrelated career was actually the mental health impact of these eye disorders. It was seeing the levels of distress people were coming to as a result of this. That's what made me want to, just step up and do something. So 2005, I started a tiny little company and created these two parallel projects. So one was the dry eye shop with dry eye and scleral lens products, and the other was the dry eye zone, which was like a forum and education center. They were completely separate, but I was just running them both for many years, and those kind of grew over time. eventually the dry eye zone grew to the point where it was really time to incorporate properly as a nonprofit. So Aidan Moore, who is now executive director at the foundation, he and I incorporated the Dry Eye Foundation in 2018, and the Facebook group became part of that going forward. So again, not related to the dry eye shop. I do still own the shop, but my work really is in the foundation at this point. And a couple of years back, we created a website to kind of support the Facebook group there as well.
God, that's just like such a all-encompassing, and to have like a really big vision. And it's really, how many people do you have in the My Big Fat Scleral Lens Facebook page?
Oh, the group, it's either 11 or 12,000 now, I think.
That is just like, that is incredible. It's like every scleral lens wearer.
It was a little scary at first because for us, it was a new type of thing. I mean, I'd hosted a lot of online support groups before in forums and on Facebook, but this one, it's patients and providers. And so that was a new kind of thing. And, challenging in some ways, trying to find a balance. How do we, make this work well? But we felt it was so important for the things patients were struggling with and the common questions they were having. We wanted everyone to know. We wanted them to have a window into what are patients saying that maybe they don't dare speak up about at their appointments, right? We wanted to just make what would be a safe place for people to share their experiences and ask their questions. And with scleral lenses being a growing field in optometry, to give new providers a window into this strange new world.
I love the group. I'm a longtime lurker, never a poster. So I'm in the group, always lurking. But it's funny, I mean, you talked about mental health too. I remember one of my first patients that I told about the group like a decade ago. And she was really struggling. Like the first day I fit her, she was just kind of like, I'm not sure if I want to do this. This is a lot for me. And I told her, there's a group that if you want to, go on and look, there's other, patients, because you don't know other people with sclerals, right? Mm-hmm. And she came to her follow-up and she's like, that group helped me so much. She goes, to be honest, when I left the office, I went to my car and I cried all day. And I was like, all day? And she's like, it was just a lot to take in. And she goes, but I went on that group, I made a post and everybody was super supportive of me. And I saw that like, this isn't the end of the world, essentially. And she's still my patient. She's been in sclerals for 10 years. She loves them. She drives really far to see me still. And, but it was kind of like, she needed that connection of, it's okay, I can do this. Mm-hmm. This could be a part of my life. There's other people going through it. So, hey, props to you that like you had someone that was, the sclerals could help them, but they didn't think they can get over the mental hurdle, and just even the support of, this will be great. You're going to love it. The group really like surrounded her. So that was really special. And I still remember that years later. So that was one of my first patients I told about the group. But I like it as a doctor because I can see on there a lot of questions that are frequently asked constantly. Mm-hmm. And so that
goes through patients' heads, right?
Yeah, it tells me that we need to be better communicators. Like if everybody's asking the same question, it means that the doctors aren't explaining it properly, or maybe they're not, emphasizing certain things. Like what would you say, Rebecca, like what do you think are like the most common questions or things that we as doctors should be communicating better to our patients?
Oh, wow. There's so many different layers in there, right? But I mean, I think some of the biggest pain points people have are on the solutions and lens care side of things. It may seem in print simple, but boy, there's so many questions and so much confusion around things. And I mean, stepping back a little, you got patients coming into this with a lot of anxiety, right? We've got some of us have complicated corneal diseases, and we've got anxiety from our history of treatments and what's going to work for me and everything. And so we walk into it with that, and then we hit this thing that just seems unbelievably complicated. There's just complexity every which way, and we don't know what to expect. I feel like almost every question that might come up, often in the group about people's experiences, could be described as, is this normal?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the benefit of the group becomes, besides just kind of the medical side and things, it's combating the isolation. I'm on my own, in my own head in this thing, and I have so many questions, and I don't know how to contextualize it, right? But so during the fitting process, we see lots of new people in the group that are like at that third lens stage, right? Where they're getting more anxious because they don't know what's normal about this process. How long does it normally take? How many lenses does it take?
Yes.
Is where I'm at right now an indication that this might not work for me? So you've got some of these growing fears, and we don't necessarily want to verbalize that to our providers. We don't want to seem like we're doubting you, but boy, could we use some context around this. Just being told, look, my hope for you is we have this slam dunk fitting process, and it's done by this time and this many lenses. But sometimes things are more complicated than that, and it takes longer, and that's okay. I'm going to be with you throughout this process, and we're going to get there, right? I think filling in some of those information gaps can be really helpful. Then when we're on our own taking lenses home, it's like we smiled and nodded in the appointments. We understood everything, but we fall apart once we get home. Gosh, I mastered insertion and everything was great. And then I got home and I can't remember any of it. So there's these panics, right? And at that stage, we need everything in writing that we can possibly get. Right? We need that to fall back on. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest consistent challenges we've seen in the group and just speaking with patients is I want more written materials that tell me what to do. That was one of the reasons that we came up with our little handbook.
So one, where tell us about the handbook, and two, where can patients get it?
Right. So the handbook was kind of a passion project of mine of one day wanting to just sit down and write down the answers to these questions that we get here constantly, and a lot of the questions that are coming up in the forum, obviously not on the medical side, but just process-wise, how do I navigate this process of scleral lenses, and what information and supports do I need after I've taken them home? And what sorts of things are just practical troubleshooting for me? What sort of things need to send me straight back to my doctor? So the kind of content of it spans from the beginning when I'm first thinking of sclerals or my doctor's recommended sclerals, and I've got questions about it. I have questions about it medically. I've got questions about what the process will be like or what the costs will be like. So we have kind of a guide for what do I ask my doctor? What do I ask their billing staff? How do I kind of get myself comfortable with moving forward here? Then just putting people in the picture of what are scleral lenses, because these are not like contacts. And you've got some people who have a long history with contact lenses and others who have none at all and are pretty nervous about putting anything in their eyes, right? And from both angles, there's going to be lots of doubts and uncertainties about it, right? Then some guidance on just kind of, getting through that fitting process and questions to ask. Most of the handbook really is dedicated to the lens handling and care side of things where lots of questions come up. So some of the just general principles about lens application and removal, then cleaning and care. And this is, it's not like pushing any brands or anything, but in concept, what are each of these different solutions for? The filling, the rinsing, the cleaning, disinfection, kind of getting some terminology established for things, because we see lots of compliance issues on lens care breaking down in the language of things, especially you've got like existing longstanding contact lens users what saline means to a soft lens user is not the same thing as what it means to a scleral lens user, right?
Mhm.
So defining the different types of things, walking people through the different tools that are available, and then also running through what the safety issues are with sclerals. What are those rules we need to follow to keep our eyes safe? Safety's always been a big thing for us. And in the Facebook group, and a thing that I'm really, really grateful for is we've had this fantastic team of moderators for the group, right? We have patient moderators and we have doctor moderators. Dr. Messer's been on our moderator team for a long time. And so the patient moderators led by Cindy Edwards has just been fantastic.
He is phenomenal.
She's amazing. She's a retired RN.
Like every post. I don't know how she does it, but she is all over that page. And I like how she keeps people in line. Like she doesn't let providers go too far and she doesn't let patients go too far. Like everybody stays in their lane and makes sure that all conversations on the page are productive and that they're educational and that they're correct. So I do, I know when she's all over it, like, you know, it's like, oh, there's something juicy here if she's getting into it. So yeah, she does a great job keeping the page safe and accurate for patients.
And Cindy spearheaded this thing of coming up with our frequently asked questions for the group. So there's a set of like 20 questions with lengthy answers. And we kind of went through and had an optometrist vet these for us as well. So rather than, you know, the inevitable thing in Facebook groups is answer the same question 20 million times, right? So now she'll post a link to the pages where there's more information on it too. And there's a few topics in there where we can be pretty draconian in the group. We've got a zero tolerance policy for, you know, water and contacts. And you know, there was a time when things would come up about, you know, rinsing lenses with water where everybody has an opinion and who do you trust, right? But now, honestly, in the group, this is just something we decided years ago was going to be a thing where we had no flexibility on it. We're going to say, this is it. This is a basic safety issue. And no, it's not just down to everyone's opinions. It's down to there is only one safe practice here. Don't mix water and contacts.
Yeah, I think you guys do a great job with that too, because there's so many, you know, so many people where, well, I've done this for years and this is a good way to save $1 a month by like reusing these things. And like I always give the analogy to patients too. It's like, yeah, you can drive without a seatbelt your whole life until you get into an accident. Like I've never been in an accident. I could have been driving my whole life without a seatbelt, and guess what? Nothing's ever happened to me. But it's a risk. I kind of frame it that way. Like it's a risk. It's just a matter of if it's going to hit you or not. So it's hard when some people share their opinion of I've done this for 20 years. It's like, well, you know,
that's my most dreaded answer to things. Oh, I've done it for 20 years and it's never been a problem. Well, yeah, I'm 57. I've been driving for 40 years and never had an accident. But the thing is, if I'm ever in an accident, I do not want to be catapulted through the windshield. So I wear the seatbelt, right?
Every time you with water and every time you drive without a seatbelt, the risk is new. You know, it's not a cumulative risk. It's, you know, the same. It's a risk every time that water is introduced to the lenses. And so I appreciate that too on just hardlining. You know, there are a few things that you just can't let it spin out of control. And so there are times when you know, leaders of especially such a large group across many countries now, even that you just have to have a line in the sand and encourage patients to find good alternatives for the rinsing solutions and, you know, lesser expensive options, which I like on your dryeyeshop.com website where you have kind of the rinsing, the filling, and there's just a lot of options to still keep it reasonable as far as price wise to take care of your lenses and not be tempted to save the dollar by using water. I also like on the Dry Eye Shop website, I point a lot of patients to the overnight because a lot of patients do experience, you know, dryness when the lenses come out and they're a little uncomfortable. And so I like the eye masks, the sleep masks for those moisture chambers. And so I reference that page on your website a lot. And I think it's a really good resource too, because I know that if they're getting anything off of the Dry Eye Shop website, that it's, you know, it's vetted, it's a good product. And then they can kind of poke around and see, oh, like I like that mask or this filling solution, or I like this insertion stand. It's kind of nice just to have all in one. And I also tell patients that too. Like if you go to Amazon and you're not sure if it's the right product, well, then just go to Dry Eye Shop and just pick anything on that. Pick on Filling Solutions and pick any of them. Like you're going to be okay. And then we can regroup, when we reconnect or whatever. But I just like having a bunch of vetted products all in one spot.
We sure try. I mean, a new actually safety area with products for us has been the Scleral lens filling solutions. We went through a period last year when there were like 5 in a row new salines for sclerals popping up on Amazon, and none of them were FDA registered. None of them had contact information, no way to track what manufacturing facility they were coming from. I actually just came back from Arvo meeting in Denver, and I was talking with the manufacturer of the equipment that does the blow fill seal, so the individual vials, and we were talking about concerns about kind of cloned equipment of that type that is not making necessarily a consistent sterile seal for vials, and seeing the market kind of flooding with new both eye drops and scleral lens filling solutions that we just really can't trust. So on the mbfsl.org site, we have a page now where we post any new product safety concerns so people can look for them there. I mean, these don't quite fit into our eye drop safety database, which is all, those are drugs technically. These are our contact lens solutions. So we just made a separate page for it so people would know what to avoid. And we report stuff to Amazon when we've got a concern, and the FDA cracks down now and then as well. But those things take time. So our big advice to people is make sure it's a trusted brand and coming from a trusted seller. Because even when you've got a trusted brand of a solution, depending who you're buying it from, you don't know. Sometimes these things are, they're expired and they've been relabeled. They'll put barcodes over expiration dates or, drug codes and things. It's concerning. So if people are buying solutions on Amazon, we really want them to be buying from the manufacturer's own store rather than a third-party seller. We have to update our guidance on that every year or two because the ways that some of the lesser quality products are sneaking in and looking more legitimate change over time as well.
And I think it's especially important for our scleral lens patients because it's not like if I'm using an eye drop and I put it in my eye and it's gone in 2 minutes. If someone puts a saline in their scleral and it's held against their eye for hours and their eye is already compromised because of dryness or a corneal transplant or what have you, like they're just at higher risk. They're a higher risk eyeball. Everybody's at risk, but they're even higher. So that's why I always really stress to my patients and I tell them, like, I'm not trying to be naggy and I'm not trying to, your eye is at high risk and I just really worry about it. Especially my graft patients. You just don't want that to like spin out of control if they get some crazy infection. So I appreciate how much you put on there too with the recalls. You're always like ahead of it because patients get worried. They think everything's recalled. There'll be a recall of glaucoma patients thinking they can't take their glaucoma drops because there was a lot of drop recalls and they're not taking their medications. So it's just, they don't know and they get scared of all drops in general. So it's the more knowledge is better for patients, especially online.
Yeah, we really have to dig into the details sometimes, and most things really and truly are fine. Again, assuming we're buying the right things and from safe sellers, but there is a lot to keep up with these days with the drops. We tried to simplify that with the eyedropsafety.org site. Just look up any drop. It's got red flags on anything that's either recalled or has other safety concerns.
I have another topic. Or Jason, did you have something?
I just wanted to say regarding the handbook, which is great, patients obviously should be getting them from their providers because by the time they get it through you, they've already got their lenses. But how do providers get those books that they can give to their patients?
I just realized I didn't answer the question about that earlier. Where do you get them? So mbfsl.org, we have them both for patients to purchase them individually, and providers can get them in bulk there, or just contact the foundation. Phone and email are on the site as well. but we have bulk discounts on those, 10 packs, 50 packs. We also have an option to, like, you can personalize the back of them. We can get the practice information printed on them. And yeah, it would make an enormous difference to patients if they know this is something their doctor's recommending.
Yeah.
Then, yeah.
I think that's of all the things we'll do today, if we get some doctors starting to give out those books to their patients, that will help a lot with the patient's issues.
And consistency in education. Yep.
And I think that some are going to be like, oh my God, this is like overkill. My patient's going to be terrified, right? There's so much. Is it really that complicated? And so, not every patient is going to want to read everything in something like here, but this is meant to span kind of things people might need to know at the beginning. Or we've also heard from people who have worn scleral lenses for years, and they're reading through this and they're saying, oh, I never knew that, or, oh, I didn't know that. Some of the safety things or other things about products, or just things like that. We have a travel guide in here, tips for how do I travel with scleral lenses, just kind of the living with it type things too. So at some point along the journey, it is going to be helpful. And I mean, our biggest goal from it, of course, is just kind of supporting the day-to-day, making sure people are safe and comfortable using their lenses, and they've got some information to fall back on, and some prompts for when to come back to their provider and say, hey, I have a question, or hey, I have a problem, or I might have a problem.
Mm-hmm. And it might save a lot of staff time too, a lot of phone calls of like, is this normal? Is this normal? Is this normal? They could just look at it and they're like, oh, okay. So it might even save, ahead of time. If you hand it out ahead of time to your patients, it answers and saves your wonderful techs that support us a lot of phone calls.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought we would wrap up today with just like a couple comments to maybe the anxious new wearer. Maybe they just started using sclerals, or their fitting appointment is coming up. I think we could maybe, Rebecca, you can start on just like we can each give maybe one piece of advice on like what to expect, or something to ease their mind as they go into their fitting appointment. I guess, Rebecca, if you don't want to go first, maybe somebody else can jump in, but just ways to, you had talked about the mental health impact of like how stressful those early days can be. Especially the early days, but kind of always. And, do you have any advice to the new wearer on the journey and how scleral lenses have helped you? And, just again, to ease someone's mind as they approach their fittings.
I think my top advice is it's a process. Be patient. It's going to be okay, right? We want to get to the finish line immediately, but things take time. For some people, this is a slam dunk. For others, it takes longer. The fitting process may take longer, be a little more complicated than you're expecting. Learning to get them in and out consistently and comfortably may take longer, may take some special tools, may take some special training, but you'll get there in the end. Learning to live with them, learning to deal with them at work and out and about and travel. There's learning. It takes some time, but you will get there. It's going to be okay. Look around for the supports and, lean heavily into the conversations with your provider.
Yeah. My tip would be that, we as the providers pour a lot into our team. Like I have 2 or 3 teammates that know a ton on patient education. And so if you feel like you need to speak to the provider, you can always start by talking to the team too, because they can be so supportive as well. And they can email more, they can usually get back to you more quickly. They can make calls to you more quickly, and that they can then kind of help filter the level of concern. I just feel like my team is so great at connecting personally, and that having the relationship doesn't just have to be with the provider. Our teammates help you too. And so don't be afraid to kind of like pour into them and let them invest into you too, because again, our teams really thrive on that. Mm-hmm. And so we do take it as a team approach, and you can ask anybody questions along the way.
Yeah, and to that end, my tip would be is to write down your questions. I mean, we all as providers, we cringe a little bit when someone pulls out a list of questions. But the reality is that's okay.
Yes.
It's better to do that than get there and say, oh, I had another question, but I can't remember what it was now. And then you remember it after you leave. It's like, write down your questions, we should be willing to sit there and go through your questions. And maybe we don't have an hour to cover each question, but we should be able to address those. And the reality is again, in the fitting process and in your appointments, a lot of those questions should be answered just through the process without having to ask the question. You should find the answer because your provider should be giving you that information as you're going through, but maybe not everything gets addressed. And so, I got a couple of questions. I just want, you answered that. Oh, you answered that. Okay. I had a question about this still. And maybe some of it is, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you this booklet at the end. And a lot of your questions are going to get answered in the booklet too. But be prepared with questions, write them down if you need to. It's better than going in and forgetting the things you wanted to know.
I guess my advice would be kind of similar to Rebecca too. It is a process. I think sometimes people get their first lens, and if it's not perfect, they think, well, why isn't it perfect right away? It's supposed to be a custom lens. So I usually always tell people the first year we're going to be really good friends. Mm-hmm. You're going to see me a few times. And then from year to year, like your eye doesn't change too much where we might just have to make little tweaks. Because I think they also think, am I going to have to redo this every year?
Right.
Like next year, am I going to have to make all these changes again? And that's not, so it just seems like a lot. It seems like a lot with, high maintenance lenses, mm-hmm. all the products. How am I going to do this every day? How's it going to fit in my routine? I think the main thing is just don't give up the first year.
Yeah.
Because if they can stay in the lenses the first year, they're in them forever. So sometimes it's the appointment. Sometimes it's oh my gosh, I'm trying to get my kids ready in the morning and this is taking me too long. But it gets better with time. Even like soft lenses, it took me 20 minutes to take my lenses out when I first learned, and now I can take them out without using a mirror. So everything gets better with practice. But I think people, especially grownups, we want to be perfect at everything immediately. Mm-hmm. And if we can't do it within 2 seconds, we feel like a failure, but it's very normal. All of these things are normal to have multiple visits. It's normal to struggle with something, but your providers want to help you. They want to help you to see better. So we're along the way for the journey. So the main thing is just don't give up in the first month of the fitting process. But that is about it. Is there anything else that we wanted to ask Rebecca? I think this was a really fun, great episode.
Mm-hmm. I just want to make sure everybody knows the websites where they can get more information, both as practitioners or as patients. You mentioned them already, but we can repeat them for the listeners. And they are on your screen, but the big ones are the mbfsl.org and then also the dryfoundation.org. If you want more information, again, these are great resources. Also, the Facebook groups, the My Big Fat Scleral Lens group on Facebook. Again, you mentioned earlier, Rebecca, 12,000 members. So again, incredible resources that can open the door to getting your questions answered or getting more comfortable. Again, practitioners, don't be afraid to get involved as well. Find out what your patients are learning through the groups. You don't have to be active, like Jamie mentioned earlier as we talked. She lurks. We can all lurk. We can learn just by being there and listening to what's talked about. We don't have to participate, but we should know what our patients are asking, because it will make us better at taking care of our own patients and answering their questions up front. So again, use these amazing resources. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for providing them and for your passion for individuals who have suffered or suffer with dry, uncomfortable, blurry vision eyes, and the scleral lenses and the products that can make them have a better life.
Thank you so much for having me on this today. I love the work that you're doing with this, and appreciate you so much.
And that wraps up today, everyone. So have a wonderful week. Keep overfilling, and we will see you next week.